Greetings from Tokyo. My name is Daisuke Beppu. How are you doing? Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, even if it's for a little bit. It really means a lot, and so thank you very much indeed. Now today, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about some films, or I'm sorry, not films, but some film-related places that are in Tokyo that might be of interest to any of you who ever decide to visit Japan and visit Tokyo, maybe on a vacation or something of that nature. So if you don't mind, I'd like to share with you just a few ideas of places to visit in Tokyo, and specifically places to visit that have a connection with films that happen to be in the Criterion Collection. So I received a question a long time ago from a viewer named Lindsay. So Lindsay, I hope you're doing well, my friend. And I read your recent comment, by the way, the other day, and it was really nice to hear from you. Now, I really have to apologize to you again because I think there were two questions that I have yet to answer. So the first question I still remember is, what you asked me about what I thought were the best packaging releases from Criterion, which releases have the best packaging, and design and total package and that sort of thing. And so I'm still working on that. So I promise to make a video about that very soon. I have not forgotten. Okay, I promise I have not forgotten. The next question that you asked that I haven't yet answered is, what were some famous film sites or film-related places? Or to put it another way, what are some film-related places that I thought might be worthwhile to visit for someone who's into cinema and who's into film? And you are obviously into film and cinema, and you are into the Criterion Collection in particular. So I was trying to think. I live in Tokyo, and this is Tokyo, and to be perfectly honest, though, I don't tend to go out too much beyond my sort of comfort zone. When I go to work, I traverse the same route to and from work. With respect to what I do with my family, we tend to do similar things when we leave the house. So we don't tend to go to various places in Tokyo because it's I have two little children as well. So our ability to move is a little bit restricted in many ways. But hopefully that'll change as my kids get older. Yes, so I admit that perhaps my selections that I'm going to provide you going forward in this video might not necessarily be the most exciting selections, and I really have to beg your pardon about that because because there are a lot of other sites online, and I'm sure you already know this. There are other sites online and other sources that are available online by people who are much more knowledgeable than I. They have blogs about places they have visited that are film related. There is information about other films that have been made. Maybe the locations, the shooting locations in Tokyo are indicated, so you can visit the shooting location of a certain film. There are many famous films that have been shot in Tokyo, as you probably know. Things that come to mind that you may know would be films like Lost in Translation. There's a Wolverine film. And you can find all that information online about, for example, the hotel that is featured in Lost in Translation. It's still in Tokyo. It's in Shinjuku. It's very close to where I live. It's probably, you just hop on the train, you can probably get there from here maybe in about less than 30 minutes. So you can find all that information there online if you look around, and I'm sure you've done this already. So that's my way of saying that I don't want to give a comprehensive overview in this video because it's really outside of my expertise, and if I try to do that, I think my efforts would be quite maybe they wouldn't be satisfactory to a viewer like you. So instead, what I wanted to do is I wanted to focus on films or film-related sites that are featured or otherwise that are connected with films that have been released in the Criterion Collection. So you are knowledgeable of the Criterion Collection, Lindsay, so hopefully this might be of some interest to you. And again, it's a little bit boring, so I really apologize for that, but hopefully this will be fine. Oh, and I should mention one other thing before I move on. This is obviously not just for Lindsay, but for everyone. So the sites that I'm going to talk about, there are just 3 of them, so I'm just going to talk about them in a moment. But please remember also that I'm going to be mentioning a bar, and so I don't, obviously you should know that the drinking age in Japan is 20 years of age. So therefore, if you are under 20, you are not allowed to drink alcohol. So I must strongly say that I don't endorse at all underage drinking, because it is against the law and it is very dangerous, and if you are caught, the consequences can be quite severe. So please be wary of the drinking age, which is 20 years old. If you are 20 years old or older, Japan is a drinking culture, so it is a very exciting place for that. But please remember that please be sure to drink responsibly, and please be courteous of those around you, and also be aware of your own limitations and your own health risks. So in other words, be sure that you drink responsibly and healthily when you're here. I don't want you to hurt yourself or to hurt others. That's not fun for anyone. So as long as you are okay with that, and you're 20 years old or older, then there's one place here that I think might be of interest to you when you visit Japan. Okay, so with that out of the way, please let me talk now about 3 places that are linked to the Criterion Collection, and hopefully these might be of interest to you. So here we go. Spine number 387 in the Criterion Collection is this film, or 2 films I should say, La Jetee and Sans Soleil. And these films were made by a filmmaker whose name is Chris Marker, or I believe in French the name is pronounced Chris Marker. Chris Marker or Chris Marker. It is Sans Soleil, the second film, the later film, which is 1983. Yes, Sans Soleil that I want to speak of today. And the reason why is because Sans Soleil is essentially a collection of images. It's not really a documentary, but it's a collection of images that are taken from actual situations that were filmed. And amongst those images are those that were taken while in Japan, and specifically in Tokyo. So you get these scenes of Tokyo, contemporary at the time, which was probably early 1980s Tokyo. And so it's a really interesting collage, a video collage of images and sounds. So with that in mind, it's probably it might be an interesting thing to get a hold of this film, and in particular Sans Soleil, and watch it before your trip to Japan, to Tokyo. Obviously it's 1980s, so it might not necessarily be current with respect to a lot of things. Modern day Tokyo is quite a fascinating place, so it might not necessarily be current. But there is one aspect that is quite current indeed, because it's still there. Around the if you have a Blu-ray or DVD of this, I urge you to go to chapter 3 of the film and in particular go to approximately the 3-minute 45-second mark. Again, 3 minutes 45 seconds into the film, and you will see images of this area. Now, this area which is depicted in this picture here is really interesting. This is the place which is called Gotokuji. Gotokuji Temple. Now, I will leave a link below, or links regarding Gotokuji. I'll leave them in English, so if you're interested, please have a look. Gotokuji is a temple in just outside of central Tokyo, actually. It's a little bit west of Tokyo, central. And you can access it by train, and from the train station, there's a train station called Gotokuji, and from that station you just walk. It's a little bit of a walk from the train station, actually. It's about, I think, 20 minutes, maybe more, from the train station. But if you can handle that walk, then you can arrive at the temple. Now, the temple is a huge place. It's not just a little place. It's a huge place, and there are many buildings within the complex and within the grounds. And so you walk into the main entrance and you just walk through, and there's a main building, there are some other buildings around, there's a place for, I think, administrative matters. But if you just walk maybe in the general direction that away, you can find a small corner that is devoted to these little cat statues, which are called manekineko. And they are white with paws upraised. And in the film SOLEIL, there are some wonderful images of these cat statues, the manekineko, as they are resting in this little secluded part of Gotokuji Temple. And it's really lovely, and it, I think, becomes an iconic image, a really indelible image, because you have this idea of kind of a traditional looking temple, and you have these interesting, I mean this sincerely, as well, quirky looking figurines that are all over the place, and it's a real wonderful image to behold. And in fact, I was there at Gotokuji maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and it's still like that. It's a little bit different, I would say, from the film, obviously, but it still more or less has that same atmosphere. And you have all these figurines all over the place. They have different shapes and sizes, and there are slightly different expressions on the face and the poses. It's really interesting. So you go there and you look around and you see all these little figurines, these manekineko, and you realize, my goodness, I am here in the place that was featured in SOLEIL, that classic film, that iconic film by the great Chris Marker. So, man, maybe one of these days I should just take my iPhone and just take my Criterion Collection Blu-ray and take my iPhone and just ride my bike over to Gotokuji, because as I say, I live very close to Gotokuji. Maybe by bike I can get there within 30 minutes, maybe less. So, yes, so one place that I recommend that you visit is Gotokuji. Now, again, it is quite a ways away from central Tokyo, and if you're not familiar with the train system in Tokyo, maybe it might be a little bit confusing, so it might not be the most feasible place to visit, and especially if you have a limited amount of time, maybe it might not be the best thing to do, so you might not end up going there, and I perfectly understand. That's perfectly fine. But if you are confident with your trains, and if you do a little bit of research and due diligence beforehand, again, just looking online about how to get to Gotokuji and maybe printing out a map or something like that, and if you're really into Chris Marker or SOLEIL, yeah, I highly recommend that you go to Gotokuji. Again, Gotokuji, which is the place which features these wonderful, lovely figurines called manekineko. Another film in the Criterion Collection that features Japan and features Tokyo quite extensively is the film that is released under spine number 594, which is this film. It's called Godzilla, and this is from 1954, and this is a very, how should I put it, in many ways, it's a very memorable film. And it's one of it's a film that actually I've seen so many times that I think I know most of it. I know most of the stuff by heart, and so I have a very strong connection with this film on a personal level. I really love this film, actually. So Godzilla. And the reason why I bring it up in the context of this video is, okay, this is 1954, and so you're going to see images of Tokyo that are probably, well, not probably, they are not current. There are certain images, though, that still remain, but for the most part, other images are not current. So you're seeing a kind of a depiction of Tokyo that was made in 1953, 1954, and that depiction might not necessarily reflect the Tokyo of today. Nonetheless, there are some buildings and images that are still current, or that are still relevant in current Tokyo. And so there is that. So it's one thing to watch the film Godzilla, but it's another thing to actually visit the places that are that are featured in a Godzilla film. It's actually quite overwhelming from my point of view. As you know, well, as maybe you can reasonably guess, Godzilla has a very healthy reputation even here in Japan. There is a wonderful movie theater called Toho Theater in Shinjuku, and if you go to Shinjuku's Toho movie theater, you can find a huge statue of Godzilla's head. It's built so that it looks like Godzilla is emerging out of a building and he's about to destroy the building. It's really it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in terms of architectural design of movie theaters. It's really great. And actually there's some other stores nearby that area where you can get Godzilla goods like t-shirts and little figurines and things like that. So Godzilla has a very healthy reputation even now. And I have a few of the Godzilla films from the Showa era, so I'm a really big fan of those films. My favorites probably are, well, I like all of them, but Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla and Godzilla vs. Megalon. And so those are the campy ones, but I really love those campy ones especially. But here is the original Godzilla film. And Godzilla is going through Tokyo, and there are scenes that are really just frightening and scary. And Godzilla, at one point, Godzilla is approaching the National Diet Building. Now, this is my next suggestion for a place to visit, which is the National Diet Building. The National Diet Building is the government building, which is the place for the Japanese government's legislative body, the legislature. So the National Diet Building is probably akin to, for those of you in the United Kingdom, for example, the Houses of Parliament. And for those of you who are in the United States, for example, it is akin to the Capitol building, I would say, in Washington, D.C., in the United States. So the National Diet Building. And the National Diet Building, if you have the Godzilla release from the Criterion Collection, it actually appears around the 1 hour, 4 minute mark. So 1 hour, 4 minutes. And for this Blu-ray, it actually starts, that 1 hour, 4 minute mark is, it occurs in chapter 16. So if you go to chapter 16 of the Blu-ray, and you can check out 1 hour, 4 minutes. And around there, you can see Godzilla and the National Diet Building. And in fact, hold on just 1 second. The National Diet Building, I actually have a book here which is called Godzilla Special Effects Making Photograph Collection. So this is just a nice photograph book which has photographs from the production of Godzilla, the first film, Godzilla. And it's really great. You've got photographs of the models being made, and you have the suit, the Godzilla suit, and how are they trying to deal with that, and then you have you have scenes like this. I love this book so much. I got it in a local bookstore, and just to illustrate what I'm talking about now is, yes, excuse me while I find it. Here we go. So this is a model. So this isn't the real National Diet, unfortunately, but this is a model of the National Diet, and you see Godzilla here, and you can probably imagine what's going to happen with respect to Godzilla and Godzilla's encounter with the National Diet building. So this is the model of the National Diet building, but the National Diet building itself looks very similar to the model. So this is quite a good model in my estimation. So you can visit the National Diet today. You can just walk past it, and it really is, when you walk in front of the entrance, it's really a sight to behold. I actually work about 5 minutes from the National Diet building, and I'm not involved in government or anything like that, but my office just happens to be nearby. And sometimes when it's a nice day out and I'm free for my lunch hour, I just walk around the National Diet building, because there are some nice parks there, and there's a nice library, and there's also a great museum there as well. And I'm not sure if you can go on tours. I'm not sure about that, but what I will do is I will leave some information in the description box about the National Diet Library, the National Diet building. But what I was saying before about walking around, even if you can't go inside, it's really a lovely sight to behold. You just walk around and you realize not only, it's the central hub of Japanese government and bureaucracy, so it's incredibly important. It's incredibly important in terms of Japanese political machine and politics and government, and also as a symbol of democracy. So it's wonderfully important in that respect. So probably your primary objective when you visit the National Diet building is to visit it in order to appreciate democracy. So that should be one's primary objective when visiting the National Diet, I suppose. But maybe a secondary objective would be to visit the National Diet building because it was featured in Godzilla, and you have Godzilla himself eyeing down or sizing up the National Diet building. Who will win this battle between the National Diet and Godzilla? You have to watch the film in order to find out. Anyway, so this is my next pick for a place to visit, the National Diet. Even if you can't go inside, you can just walk past it, walk around it, go to the very front, and you can stand in front and take a picture, and maybe if you are so inclined, bring your Godzilla Blu-ray and just hold it up and take a picture in front of the National Diet. I think that would be really cool. Last is the film. It's the release that is on spine number 331. And the film that was released on spine number 331 is this, which is Late Spring by Yasujiro Ozu. Now, just as a quick aside, this is one of the greatest films ever made, in my opinion. It is so lovely, so delicate, so moving, and and even now, as I'm older, its resonance is just all the more potent and powerful. If you haven't seen it, please do. But anyway, that's for Late Spring by Yasujiro Ozu. But that's not what I'm going to be speaking of directly right now. On this Blu-ray, and I think also on the DVD release by the Criterion Collection, there is a nice supplement feature, which is the film called Tokyo Ga. Tokyo Ga. Now, Tokyo Ga was a film by Wim Wenders, and it's a 92-minute documentary about Yasujiro Ozu from 1985. That's at least according to the description on the back of the Blu-ray. Now, Tokyo Ga is very interesting because Tokyo Ga is basically it's just a travelogue video documentary where you have Ozu just going through his appreciation of Ozu films, and in particular Tokyo Story. And from that, he transposes his discussion to his observations of Tokyo life and instances in Tokyo that take place circa 1985. So you have shots of vendors is shooting places like they're making sandwiches in a sandwich factory, or people are playing pachinko, which is the game with the silver balls. It's kind of like a pseudo or quasi gambling game. And pachinko is also very interesting because there's a lot of movie-themed pachinko machines that one can play. But that's a completely different video topic. Maybe that's a topic for another day. Film-related pachinko machines in Japan. But anyway, I'm sorry. So pachinko is also featured very briefly in Tokyo Ga, and also scenes of youth in the park, etc. So it's a really interesting, fascinating film. So if you have time before you visit Japan, I suggest to watch as many Ozu films as possible, including, of course, Late Spring. But also, if you have time, not only should you watch Late Spring, but also you should watch the supplement feature, Tokyo Ga, which is a supplement on the Late Spring release of the Criterion Collection. Now, the reason why I bring up Tokyo Ga in the context of this video is that in Tokyo Ga, there's a really interesting bit, which is, it doesn't last very long. It's only about maybe 2 minutes or so at most, but it's really fascinating. Now, around chapter 8 of Tokyo Ga. So Tokyo Ga is the supplement on this film, okay? So when you go and click on the supplement for Tokyo Ga, it'll also give you an index, a chapter index. So if you go to chapter 8 of Tokyo Ga, and in particular if you go to 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 59 seconds. Again, that's 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 59 seconds of this Criterion Collection release. You will see a little sequence where Wim Wenders takes his camera into the heart of Shinjuku nighttime, and he goes to a little bar in Shinjuku. And the bar in Shinjuku that he visits is called La Jetee. La Jetee. Now, for those of you who are cineasts and who know what La Jetee is actually referring to the title of the Chris Marker film, La Jetee. So there is a bar in Shinjuku called La Jetee. Once again, the drinking age is 20. So again, I do not endorse at all. And in fact, I really don't like it if people come here and drink and underage. If they're underage and they drink, that's not right. I don't like it at all, and I would be very upset if I heard someone did that. So therefore I do not recommend it at all. But if you are 20 years old and over, this might be an interesting place to visit, a bar in Shinjuku. Now, the bar is called La Jetee, and it's really great because it's a small bar. I've been there only maybe 3 or 4 times over the course of some years, and it's a fascinating place because you go in and first of all, it's in this area of Shinjuku called Golden Gai. And Golden Gai is just this little area where you've got all these little alleyways, very skinny alleyways, and littered basically just next to each other, just one after the other. You've got these little bars, and on top of those you've got even more bars. So you've got first ground level bars and then second story bars. So it's really great. So you just walk around and you don't know where you want to go because each bar has its own little community and history and theme. Some places are more famous than others. Some places are better than others. Some places have a different kind of atmosphere, a different vibe, a different shtick, a different thing that they're going for. And so you just have to walk around and wander. It's really great. And when it's nighttime and you see the atmosphere, it's really just a lovely place. And so if you can find La Jetee, which is a little, you just have to walk around to find the right alleyway, and you look, and it's on the second floor of one of the buildings, of one of the tiny cramped buildings. You find the La Jetee. So La Jetee is the bar that is featured in Tokyo Ga, which is a supplement on Late Spring. So you go to La Jetee, or I'm sorry, when you watch the film by Wim Wenders, when he goes to La Jetee, it's a really interesting thing, because he is giving narration about what he's doing. And the narration, according to the narration, so Wim Wenders went to the bar La Jetee, which is in Tokyo, and he was filming a typical nighttime, just a typical night at the bar. So there are some other customers there, and it was just a nice time. And they weren't talking specifically, but Wim Wenders' narration was speaking over these scenes. And according to the narration, Wim Wenders was, after that, he was planning to see the new film by Chris Marker. And that new film would have been the film SOLEIL. So he was filming these around the time that he was planning to see SOLEIL for the first time, which is really fascinating. It has a nice, I get kind of chills just thinking about that. It's really a remarkable thing. But get this, for those of you who have not seen it yet, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I have to, because that's the whole point of me bringing it up in this video. So I apologize profusely. If you're still here, I'm going to talk about why that moment is so special in Tokyo Ga. So, okay, so in that moment in Tokyo Ga that I'm referring to, so Wim Wenders is filming the scenes in this great bar called La Jetee, and then the narration reveals that while he's filming, he is also meeting with and talking to none other than Chris Marker. Chris Marker is there being filmed in La Jetee, the bar, which is named after a film by Chris Marker, being filmed by Wim Wenders. That just blows my mind. It's just unbelievable. It blows my mind. And it happened in this little bar, and it's, oh my goodness. And according to maybe sites online, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I would think it's true that, Wim Wenders, whenever he visits Japan and visits Tokyo, he always goes to this bar. And it's great because every time I go there, I see, I'm amazed, because I go there, and I'm not a film guy, but I just go there, and they don't know me. I'm just a customer, I'm not a regular. But when I go there, every time I always meet someone, like I meet these people who have these direct connections with these famous filmmakers, and I'm the son of this. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing, the history that passes through that place. And an example of that would be Tokyo Ga, where Wim Wenders is shooting at the bar, and he's shooting Chris Marker. And Chris Marker, he doesn't show his face that much. Actually, he does this. I think there's a shot of someone holding a piece of paper with a drawing on it, and the person holding the paper is rather sort of kind of coy. He doesn't show his face, but he kind of goes like this for 1 second, and you see his eye peek through from behind that piece of paper. And according to the narration, therefore, the implication is that this person who is peeking through behind this piece of paper, that is Chris Marker. My goodness, that just blows me away. And the bar is still there in Shinjuku. It's called La Jetee. Look it up. I will put some links down below in the description box for those of you who are interested in that bar, La Jetee. It is very small. It doesn't fit a lot of people. There's like a little table, and there's a very small area for bar stools. I think it's maybe just 3 or 4 people consider the bar at most, and that's very cramped, and there's a little table, so it's not very big at all. So if you can't get in, too bad. But try to get in early, and it's just fascinating, and just be polite, and maybe just ask about if you have the courage, just be polite and maybe ask about, just say that you were a big fan of film and cinema, and you know this place because of its connections with Chris Marker and Wim Wenders and other great filmmakers, and I'm sure the people there would be very happy to speak with you, and English is fine, and maybe share stories about Wim Wenders and Chris Marker and other filmmakers that have been there as well. I'm sure anyone who's anyone in the film community, my understanding is, will have gone to that bar. So and then when I go there, I'm just in awe. I'm sitting there and I realize I'm sitting on the stool, and I think, my goodness, which great filmmaker would have sat in the stool where I'm sitting now and drinking my drink? Oh, I'm getting chills. I want to go to that bar tonight. So again, please drink responsibly, and please be wary of the drinking age, 20 years. But if you can keep that in mind, and if you promise me that you won't hurt yourself or those around you, then please, by all means, visit the bar La Jetee in Tokyo, in Shinjuku, which is featured in the film Tokyo Ga, which is a supplement to the film Late Spring, released by the Criterion Collection. So that concludes my list of places that I think one should visit in Tokyo that are film related, with respect to films that have appeared in the Criterion Collection. Lindsay, I hope that is sufficient to answer your question. Again, it's not the most impressive list. I think there are more impressive lists that are offered by other persons online. And therefore, I encourage you to look around as much as possible. I'm sure you've done so already, so that's fine with me. But this is just my own thinking, and in particular in the context of the Criterion Collection, because I know you are into the Criterion Collection. So maybe some of this might be of interest to you. I hope, fingers crossed. And I understand that you are this is your first time visiting Japan. So I hope you have a lovely, fun, adventurous, safe time, and that you just enjoy yourself. I know that you have been very busy with your studies, so this hopefully will be a wonderful vacation, and just you will have the time of your life. I'm so happy to hear that you're visiting Japan, so please let me know if you have any questions, or if you just want to talk about things. I'm more than happy to do so. You can leave a comment, or you can try to reach me directly. If you're on Facebook, you can leave me a message, and I'd be so happy to comment further. And also, I again, if you're so inclined, and if our schedules are mutually convenient, even if it's for an hour or 30 minutes, please let me know, and I'd be very happy to buy you a coffee or a tea or something, and you can sit down and we can talk about cinema and just life and how you are doing. Great. So if you have a free moment, and if our schedules are mutually convenient, please let me know, and I'd be more than happy to meet with you. With that in mind, thank you very much, and I will see you again very soon. All right, take care.